This section is all about your child's AAC. And in particular, we're going to be focused on if your child has high-tech communication system like an app on a tablet or a dedicated device. So you're probably going to need some help with this section, so I strongly recommend that you work together with your speech-language pathologist or with the company rep if you got your device through a company here as well. What you need to start going into is learning all about the operations of the hardware of your child's system. So for example, is it on an iPad, an Android? Is your child using a computer? Do you know how to turn it on and off? And do you know how to adjust the volume? Because your child really needs to learn how to do those things as well. So it's helpful if you can do it first. If you are on an iPad, there's also buttons that can be activated depending on your case for rotation lock or mute. Mute, not so important here. You probably don't want to mute, but rotation lock can be pretty important because you can see what happens on my system. When I rotate it, it changes things. It makes them look weird and different. And a lot of kids don't do well with that. So I recommend you do have on rotation lock. Now, if you're on an iPad, it's really important that you have some kind of password for guided access so that your child only uses it for communication and is not trying to do other fun things on it. It can cause a lot of frustration and confusion when a child thinks that their communication device is also their YouTube watching device. And then they're like, well, why would I want to use this for communication? I just want to watch YouTube all day. So that's really important. It's also important that you learn how to back it up so that if something were to happen to the hardware, you have it saved somewhere. Now, hopefully your speech pathologist or the company rep can help you with this, but somewhere on another iPad or in a computer or somewhere, you should definitely have a backup of the system that you put together. Once you get in there, you need to learn how to do some things. Like you need to learn how to clear the screen, which is going to look different on every single different device. For some, it's as simple as pressing this little X button to back up. For others, there's a button that says clear, like this right here. You're going to need to know how to get into the alphabet. It's really important that your child has access all the time to literacy skills because there are a lot of words that just aren't in here and they need to learn how to start spelling it. Even if all they do is get the first letter, right? That first letter alone will help you to know what they're trying to say. Some devices have something called Word Finder. So I could put in here D-O-G and then hit find. Oops, sorry. Find word. I did it the wrong way. I guess I got to start with find word and then hit D-O-G and then I'll hit find and then it's going to show me the path to get to that word so I know where it is and I can teach my child where it is as well. In addition, you need to know how to get back home. So, sometimes it's a home button there, Proloquo to go. Home is a little button down at the bottom at all times. You're going to need to know how to go back, how to speak a phrase. So sometimes you can have it set up where it will speak from the message window, or you can turn that off, and then how to adjust the volume as well. There's a lot of different things to get to know on your child's high-tech system so that you feel comfortable with the technology. Okay, let's talk a little bit about these words and what they are and where you find them. So in the world of AAC, we have these things called core words, which are kind of like your main, all-day, everyday, powerful words. A lot of them are verbs. And you have fringe words, which are often nouns, and they're ones that we use within specific activities or specific times of the day. I'm going to show you how I have it set up here on my light text system. So on my light text system, I have my core words down here so that I can easily access them at all times of the day. These are the things that I might want to use 50, 60 plus times a day, including not, or see, or good, or bad, or in, right? I can use those words whether I'm at breakfast, doing art, on the bus, going to swimming. I can use them all the time. Those are core words. So what you want to do is go through on your child's device and see if you can find these core words. Chances are, if they have a large grid size, you're going to find most of those core words right here on the front page. If they have a smaller grid size, it's going to be more difficult to find, which is why for most students, for most kids, we try to err on the side of a large grid size. Doesn't work for everyone depending on their vision and fine motor needs, but that's why we try to go with the larger grid size when possible. Okay, now we're going to look at fringe words. Those are the words that you're going to use during certain times of the day, but not all day long, right? So on my LaTeX system here, I like to have my fringe words in little tabs. So here's an example of fringe words. It's all my calendar words. Do I need to talk about, the month of the year all day, every day? No, probably not. I probably just need it during calendar time at school, right? So they're important words, but I don't need to have super easy access to them. Some other fringe words that will be important for your child is their name, important people, their favorite foods, their favorite places, activities, toys, fun words, all those words that you listed in part 1 where we went through what are the words that your child is going to want to say. Let's find them in the device. And if they're not there, then we need to learn how to add them in so that your child can communicate about those important fringe words. So I've left you some space here to add in your own fringe words that you might want to add into your child's device. Okay, so now we're going to talk about settings. Now, this is something you kind of got to play around with or get some help. If you're not sure where to go, definitely get some help with these things. But you need to know, or at least have written down, all the different settings for your child's device. And the reason is because things happen. The device gets broken, the device stops working, that it ages out and you're ready for a new device, right? And so you need to know exactly what your child has so that it can be reproduced or put into a new system. So the type of device that you have, it might be an iPad. It might be a Nova Chat. It might be an Accent 1000, right? If you know what it is, put it in here. And if there's a serial number, like some of them have a serial number on the back, put that in as well. You may need to use that if you call up the company for help. The language system, if you don't know what this means, then just get some help. This would be the type of app that it is, like Proloquo, Touch Chat, Words, LAMP Words for Life, Unity. Any of those things are different language systems. Number of icons. I'm going to go home here. This is how many things are displayed at a given time. Now, keep in mind you should keep this consistent. So don't have one page that has 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 15, and another page with 35, right? That's kind of confusing. That'd be like on your phone, right? If one screen had an opportunity for 15 apps and then you swipe it and all of a sudden you're like, there's all these tiny little apps. Keep it consistent. But the number of icons on this is 15. So I would write that down because if your child was going to get a new device, you'd want to stick with the 15 unless they were ready for more, of course. Username. That can be found in various places. You can check under menu, you could check under vocab. Those are some different places that you might find that child's username. Now, the voice can be pretty important because we take our voices as very personal. They're very meaningful to us. So in all the different systems, there's going to be some kind of settings in which you can go and find voice. So in this case, the voice is set to Heather, and it has a certain rate and a certain pitch. If that's been customized for your child, then you want to write that down so that they can have the same voice later. And make sure that they've had a say in what voice they're using too. You can try different voices that are free. You know, everyone's going to have a few different free voice options, and then they usually have some paid ones as well. Try them out and have your child decide what do they like the best. Now, if you had insurance or a grant pay for your system, Write down who funded it and when. The reason I say this is because different agencies have different requirements for replacing it. So in the state where I live, every 5 years, if your device was funded by Medicaid, it can get refunded and you can get a new one. So it's important to keep track of those dates so you know when you're eligible, when your child is eligible for getting a new one. If your child has a password on their device, and I recommend that they do have one, make sure to write it down here. My favorite is to put down their full birthday. So if they were born on January 1st, 2001, I would say 01012001, right? It's a little bit too complex for most of our kiddos to get the hang of, but it's something that you are never going to forget because you know it's their birthday. And if there's anything else to put down, put it down here under other. Now, this is important as well. If your child has a high-tech device and you know that you're going to sometimes need some help with it, this is where you're going to do some Googling to get some information. What's the support phone number? If you are using a PRC or Saltillo device, then you can go onto their website and find their phone number and write it down. Please note that some of these companies have support in more than just English. So if you really need support in a different language, write that down. If you are working with some companies that don't have a support phone number, but they might have a support email. So write that down as well. Different ways you can get in contact with the company if anything goes wrong. As well as websites. Some of the companies I found, they don't even want you to email them, but they do have a website where you can type in your question or what's going on there. In addition, it's a great idea through the website or through YouTube to find support videos. There's videos out there on how to do everything. So if you're like, my child is using Proloquo and I need to know how to add some important words in, just go in and find a YouTube video about it. Or my child is using Touch Chat with Word Power and I want to customize their name and their photo, go find a video of that and it will walk you through exactly what to do. Finally, some of these apps have a user manual that you can find online. They may be hundreds of pages long, so I would not recommend that you download and print it, but just putting in there what the user manual URL is can be really helpful in case you need that support later.